remote, northwestern parts of Botswana, the largest population of our kind roams these very lands, an estimated 200,000 of us. We've been around for centuries, watching as things have come and gone. Botswana is our home. It's one of our last strongholds in Africa. As human populations increase, so too do both of our needs for natural resources. The Elephants Next Door aims to explore how we elephants and humans can coexist. The series sets out to investigate whether it's possible for you and I to live in harmony. In today's episode, Murray from the Okavango Craft Brewery demonstrates how locally farmed millet is being used in the production of craft beer. The business model rewards farmers with higher profits for practicing elephant-aware farming.
I grew up in Cape Town, South Africa, and I went to university at UCT and I studied zoology. At the end of studying, I went on to work at the university for a little bit, and on the side I was homebrewing, just for fun, kind of just to learn it. And just started brewing more and more and getting more into it. And then when I was looking for a more serious job, I was lucky enough to meet a brewery owner in Cape Town and started working for Woodstock Brewery. While I was working there, I got a diploma in brewing through IBD and worked for Woodstock Brewery for about 5 years. And then I met the directors of the Okavango Craft Brewery down in Cape Town, and through a mutual one of our suppliers, and managed to get this job up here.
The craft beer industry has taken off in recent years. It's something that, you know, every country has and promotes their own craft breweries because it's local beer and it's all made to, you know, they try to use local produce where they can. But we thought, okay, this has potential to be a business that can make enough revenue to make this whole model sustainable. It would be a good try. It would be a good example, a good model to show that this can work, you know.
I guess our beer starts in the field where we get our millet from the farmers. It's brought here, and then we need to malt that for use in beer.
Millet is an ingredient to an important beer that's made traditionally in this area of Southern Africa. And so we wanted to emulate that in a way and make a product that people felt like proud of. People here in this part of Botswana. And so we decided to make craft beer, and we are now, all of our beers are adjunct millet beers. So we add millet to all of our beers, including lager, pale ale, golden ale, and even a stout. And so we make a whole range of different craft beers.
So this is our malting machine, our little homemade malting machine for testing out the malting process and getting kind of all of our parameters right before we can scale it up into a bigger system. All right. So malting, the whole process is about a 5-day process. We'll start by taking a certain amount of grain and we steep it in water through a series of wet and dry steps so that the grain can soak up moisture as if it was in the ground, you know, taking moisture out the ground. So we now come to the end of our germination, and you can see here you can see the millet's grown a pretty solid rootlet, but we're looking at the chit which is the beginning of the plant actually growing. And we want that just to kind of have started growing, and then we know that we've got a decent germination. Germination is when the plant starts to grow, and that process goes for about 3 days. We just monitor the temperature and humidity that the seeds are growing in. And once they have grown enough, we stop germination, and we do that by drying it. So we'll take it, load it onto trays into a drying oven, and we'll dry it overnight at 50 degrees. And that will stop it from growing and almost set that grain as is, ready for use in the brew house. So now the idea is to take it out of our vessel and load it onto drying trays in our drying rack. How's that? Feels good. It's like moist and warm. So I'm just taking a sample of the malted millet now. Gonna weigh it and then dry it and see what the moisture content is. You get these little like localized hotspots within the malting drum, so we don't have a good enough mixing. So you see like little balls of more modified malt, I guess. So we've started the growing process now, and the seeds are starting to grow into plants, and now we're going to stop that by drying it, and in doing so, we're kind of locking in the things we need for brewing, the starches and enzymes and proteins and all of that. Yeah, so when we're malting, we are basically tricking that seed into growing and then effectively stopping it from growing so we can then use it for brewing. And how we do that is by soaking it in water. You activate different acids and enzymes, and there's kind of a knock-on effect with some acids will release enzymes that will eventually break down the starches in the seed that the plant will use for growing. And we are tricking it into beginning that process, releasing these enzymes, beginning to break down starches, and then as brewers we use those starches and enzymes to convert into sugars that then get fermented by yeast later on in the process. Our brewing process starts with taking those grains, so the millet and the barley varieties we get from outside of Botswana, and we mill those according to our recipe. Just kind of cracking your husk, but not tearing it apart too much so you can still use it for your lautering. But then still breaking open the middle bit of the grain, your endosperm, to access those starches and make sure that they can get converted during the mash. And take our milled grain and again steep that in warm water in our mash tun. And through your mashing process, you are converting your starches into sugars that will be used later on by the yeast as food and give you alcohol and CO2. Okay, so we are separately gelatinizing our millet because millet has a higher gelatinization temperature. Gelatinizing when you just kind of open up the structures of the proteins. So we gelatinize first in here, mash in, and then add our gelatinized millet to the mash. We adjust our water chemistry to kind of accentuate different things in the brew. It's almost like adding salts to food. And we add calcium sulfate and calcium chloride. The sulfates help with a bit to accentuate the hop bitterness and flavors, and our chlorides bring out more maltiness in the beer. And then calcium as well just helps for a few different things throughout the brew. We're just checking the pH of our water. There's a lot of things to check in the beginning of the mash to make sure that your brew started off well. And then just a lot of monitoring in the middle. And after that, there's a lot to do at the end again. Mashing takes about an hour and a half, after which you heat it up through various steps to about 78, where you stop your enzyme activity and you kind of set your beer malt profile. And what you're left with is a sugary solution, which we call wort, and the spent grains that now don't really have anything left in them. We finished the process of circulating the sugary liquid, which is called wort, through the spent grain, and we're now in the process of separating the liquid from the solid, the liquid from the spent grain, and we're transferring from our lauter tun through that spent grain bed and into our kettle with hopefully nice, bright, clear, clean wort, strong wort. Cool. Close the valves. Stop the rake. And now I give it 10 minutes rest just to find its feet. And then after 10, we circulate again, and then hopefully it's clear, and we'll carry on going into the kettle. So the next step would be to get your set volume of wort now in your boil kettle, which for us is 500 liters. So in doing so, you also are adding fresh water on top of your grain to keep washing out all the sugars. So you get the most amount of sugars you can out of your grain into your boil kettle. So we're still on the first half of the transfer. We do a bit of a back sparge on the first half. So we transfer 200 liters across. Then we stop, we sparge in our lauter tun, mix that up again, circulate that again, and then start transferring the rest across. And when we start transferring the rest across, we start heating up to boil as well. And then we'll start coming up to boil. Once we've got everything across, we'll reach our kettle volume of 600 liters or 550 to 600 liters. And then should be close to boil by then. Then we boil, and during boil, we can add our hops. Adding hops at the beginning of boil gives you bitterness. Adding hops towards the end of boil gives you more flavor and aroma. Boiling also sterilizes your wort and also helps with clarifying it and developing color and a bit of flavor through caramelizing your sugars. And then after 10, we circulate again, and then hopefully it's clear, and we'll carry on going into the kettle. And then heating that up slowly. The next step is we whirlpool it. We kind of in that same tank, we get it spinning around, which helps settle out some of the solids that are in there. And then we transfer that wort into our fermenter through a plate heat exchanger that we use ice cold water to cool the wort down. And in doing so, the ice cold water gets warmed up, and we can use that for the following brew day. And the whole brew day, kind of from your mashing to boil to transfer into your fermenter, is generally about 7 hours. So that's kind of your brew day is taken up by that, what we almost call the hot side of making the wort. And then we send it into our fermenter. And in the fermenter, we will pitch yeast. And the yeast starts fermenting and takes about a week to convert all of those sugars into alcohol and CO2. and we continuously measure the density of that solution so we know when it's finished fermenting. During that, we can also add more hops. So we add hops towards the end of fermentation. It's called dry hopping, and that's to get as much aroma and flavor out of the hops, so you're not getting any more bitterness from the hops. We can put the rakes on for a bit. So you can open the door. At the end of fermentation, we crash cool the fermenter down to about 1 degree Celsius, and that then helps settle all the yeast start to flocculate, and all the solids start settling out of the tank. And our fermenters are coned at the bottom, so it all kind of concentrates at the bottom, and we're able to dump some of that yeast out. So, week of fermentation. After that week of fermentation, there's about 3 weeks of conditioning where flavors develop and some off flavors may be reduced. At the same time, we're clearing that beer up, trying to get as much yeast as we can out of it. After that conditioning phase, we also filter our lager just to give it that crisp, clean lager taste, but we don't filter any of our other beers. And then, during conditioning as well, we maintain the CO2 pressure to make sure that our beers are carbonated to the volume of CO2 that we want. And after that conditioning phase, then we're ready to package. And we are packaging into kegs and cans.
Without the infrastructure of big cities, brewing craft beer in Botswana comes with its own set of challenges. A lot of raw materials and spare parts are hard to come by and have to be imported, which can cause delays in the production process.
I think one of the big challenges is the fact that you don't find much in Maun that you need for a brewery in terms of even equipment, raw materials. So, if you need anything, you have to plan in advance, whether it's, boxes for packaging or some yeast or something along those lines. You got to make sure you plan in advance because, back home in Cape Town, if you run out of a sachet of yeast or packet of yeast, you just can go to your neighboring brewery who's, a stone's throw down the road and say, oh, can I borrow this? And I'll lend you this. And whereas here, you've got to be quite prepared. And a few times now, as we're only getting started and figuring out how fast things can move, you're suddenly like, oh, well, we've run out of boxes. Now we've got to wait another few weeks before we can get them. Which is not, as we find out how much we're going to be using, we'll work around it and get used to it. But it can then hold you back a little bit, especially with something like CO2. We had one incident where Botswana ran out of CO2. And then you sit, you got a brewery, you can't move any beer, you can't do any packaging. So we just sit and wait until we can get some more. Those sort of challenges pop up every now and again and make it a bit interesting. We are currently labeling all of our cans by hand. We did have a kind of a simple hand cranking labeling machine, but we couldn't get it set up to actually label the cans straight, and it ended up being quite slow. So we found it was quicker by hand. But we got that machine from down in Cape Town, so now we've had to send it back. So there'll be quite a time before we will get another one sent up, before we can source one that will actually make this process a bit faster. We do also have the option next time we buy cans down in South Africa to actually have them pre-labeled before they get sent up, which will hopefully then stop us from having to do this by hand and make the whole process a lot quicker, because this is definitely a bottleneck at the moment. So we have a big glycol chiller that cools the glycol and then pumps that glycol into our fermenters to keep them cold. And the only kind of environmental factor that we would have to worry about is when it gets too hot, is how that will affect the chiller. And if the chiller can't maintain its temperature, then you'll struggle to cool your beers, and fermentations can run hot, which can lead to off flavors. And yeah, your conditioning could take longer if you can't keep those cold temperatures. Also, if you fluctuate your temperatures, it's not great for beer. You can force a haze into your beer. But luckily, we've got quite a solid chiller, and we don't have as many fermenters in here at the moment. We've only got 4, so it's not under a huge amount of pressure. So I think even in the hot times of October, we should be okay. So yeah, we're just gonna see how we go. We haven't gone through a period like that yet.
We work with food technologists and brewers and came up with a range of craft beers that we hope would be able to tell the story, an evocative story that Westerners would really appreciate, and obviously the people in Botswana would appreciate. And COVID has had a significant impact on conservation in general. And what we've seen is that because it's a business and it's not just a donor project, that it seems that we are giving it a chance with sustainability in a way that grant money doesn't give. And I think that realization that doing business with communities is a far more respectful relationship, far more even relationship than a donor project, which is often motivated by Western timelines and things like that. That this was a long-term, indefinite term business relationship with people that have something that a business would like to buy, and that the authenticity of the story is very strong.
I do all these things, but the fact remains at my point. Like I go this way. The great elephant. I am an elephant. My strength allows me to make other corridors for the animals that are not able to. I am a great elephant. My height gives me the strength to explore the universe. I am the elephant. My ability gives me the strength of dispersing different seeds from different species. I am an elephant. I am the biggest animal in the world. I am also carrying the biggest responsibility, looking at how I am dispersing the wild tree species depending on my digestion. I am a great elephant. My tusks are the samples of how strongly and how nutritious our soils are. I am the great elephant. I am the great elephant.